Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, so the situation with Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, the former Prime Minister of Malaysia, who was called into the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission yesterday. And I guess he was held there for many hours for interrogation, I assume. And apparently, supposedly, he's going to be facing charges in court. He's put out a statement talking about what happened when he was at the commission and what they are alleging or what their points of concern are. And to be honest, it's even worse than I thought it was in terms of the political and PR catastrophe that this is for the Pakatan Harapan BN government, coalition government. Now, I could be wrong, but as I understand it, there's two main things that they are concerned with. One is a program called, I think, Jannah Wibawa that Muhyiddin initiated while he was Prime Minister, that was an economic sort of relief or assistance program targeting Malay Bumiputra contractors, helping their businesses. There were officials, allegedly, in the Muhyiddin government who took bribes to see to it that certain contractors would get allocations of money. So the allegation is that they were taking payoffs in order to make sure that certain contractors were going to get money, would be favored by the Jannah Wibawa program. Presumably they have evidence. There are two men who have been charged with allegedly taking bribes. So Muhyiddin initiated a beneficial program of economic relief and support for Malay business people, and allegedly some people below him who were in charge of allocating that money took bribes and gave favors in the allocation of that money. Not Muhyiddin, somebody else. His only crime would have been setting up a program for the benefit of the Malays, for the benefit of professional contractors, Malays, Bumiputra businesses, to make sure that they could survive and thrive during the pandemic. Then the other one is that there was an organization that supports Islam and Muslims, which received, because of its religious categorization, received a tax exemption. Under the previous government of Pakatan Harapan, that tax exemption was canceled. The man who ran that organization appealed against that cancellation and asked for the tax exemption status to be reinstated. Muhyiddin, when he was Prime Minister, said, "We'll look at it. We will look at your appeal, and if everything is in order, the tax exemption will be restored." The tax exemption was restored. Muhyiddin maintains that with regards to the first issue, he had no input in who would receive funds from the Jannah Wibawa project. You had to fulfill a certain criteria, and then he had, bureaucratic officials to implement that. And in the other case, he said, I had nothing to do with whether or not the tax exemption status was restored for that organization. The bank account for Bersatu, Muhyiddin's party, was frozen by the Malaysia Anti-Corruption Commission while they try to figure out whether or not there's money in there that's not supposed to be there, whether or not there's, for example, money that was put in there as bribes. Obviously, that action leading up to the state elections would have crippled Bersatu's ability to campaign and to support their candidates in the state elections if they had no access to their bank accounts. Of course, Bersatu and Perikatan Nasional and Muhyiddin maintain that the only money that's in their accounts is political donations, legal political donations. So the way this is going to look for Malay voters and young voters, the man who initiated a very good program is going to be punished for the alleged abuse of power of people beneath him who implemented that program corruptly. And then on the second issue, it's going to look to Malays, to Muslims, that this government doesn't believe that an organization that promotes Islam and helps Muslims should be tax exempt. So that's going to look like you're discriminating against Muslims, particularly given the fact that it was the government of Pakatan Harapan that canceled the tax exemption in the first place. So the whole thing looks like a discrimination against Malays, against Muslims. That's the way it's going to look to people. And it will look like the political party bank account was frozen specifically to undermine and sabotage the ability of Perikatan Nasional and Bersatu to campaign in the state elections. I'm just talking about from a PR and political point of view. The way this is going to look to everybody, that this is a clear case of political persecution, that it's a politically motivated prosecution with the goal of undermining Perikatan Nasional, which is the opposition party, and it is the leading contender for ascending to power when the term for this government ends. It really doesn't look good. I thought that I was going to read that Muhyiddin had taken a bunch of money, that he had allocated this money for Malay businesses, and instead he put it in his pocket. That's not even what they're alleging. They're alleging that he allocated all of this money for businesses, for Malay businesses, and other people took bribes in the allocation of those funds. It's very difficult to see, based on what they have revealed so far, how Muhyiddin is implicated in any wrongdoing. Jazakumullahu khairan wa assalamu alaikum.